Welcome to Game Time Tech Podcast. I'm Robert Kramer with Melanie Brue. It's episode
Good.
23. How we doing today, Mel? What's going on?
Good. It's been a while since we've done one of these, and there's been a lot of fun things happening. So I'm excited to chat about it.
My God, we've been all over the place, and it's the end of the year. Can you believe it's already talking about 2026 is just around the corner? But we got some great stuff. It's always amazing to see what's going on in the sports industry with technology, how it's evolving. Been a lot of great things. We jump into this quick disclaimer, then we'll start talking about things. This show is for information and entertainment purposes only. We'll discuss publicly traded companies on this show. Its contents should not be taken as investment advice. You were just in Las Vegas for Formula One. How cool is that? I mean, the cars just flying by and technologies. I mean, I'm hoping there's a lot to say about it, but sure that that technology is a big driver in, not in no pun intended, big driver in how some of these teams perform and a lot going on and off the track. So tell us about where what happened and what you saw and what you think.
Yeah, it was great. It was a lot of fun. I've been to the Grand Prix here in Austin before, and it's an interesting setup. It's very different. In Austin, you can see the whole track. In Vegas, you're really kind of in one area of the track. I was in the T-Mobile zone, right by the Sphere, so you have like all the different views, but there was like one nice straightaway where you got to like really see the drivers go by. But it is amazing how fast they go and how hard it is to like capture that. But one thing that I think was so interesting and clearly could not be planned, but we always talk about how these big major events on a global scale are huge proving grounds for technology. Well, it rained more in Vegas in like the 14 hours before the race than it ever has in the history of Las Vegas.
Wow.
So talk about like throwing a wrench into this. It was slick. The days of the practice round and the qualifying rounds were still wet. I think it even rained a little on race day, but the actual course was dry during the race. But it made for a really challenging environment, right? Like you already have, all the challenges of these types of races, but then you add the rain to it.
Mhm.
And it was challenging from a fan perspective, from an operations perspective, from of course the drivers and the cars. So there was definitely some interesting things happened. Luckily nobody was hurt, but there were some nice little spin outs, and they really have to adjust their driving. So I think that as you look at like how important it is in the milliseconds of the communication from like the pit to the driver,
Mhm.
and even just the sensors in the car, something I've talked a lot with Cadence about, how they pick up like a tiny little pebble before the driver could possibly even see it. Well, you've got this track that goes all the way around the strip plus around the Sphere. The Sphere actually blocks some of that wind from coming through to dry the track. So there were areas that were slicker than others. So introducing all of these things into the race, that just really made it even more interesting, and a little nerve-wracking, honestly. And everybody who was, in their nice little paddock clubs and whatnot got to just be in the warmth and not get wet. But there were a lot of people who were in the stands that were, covered up. Their diehards, right? Like they're there for it. So it was cold. I was in T-Mobile's Club Magenta, which is really cool. I'm rambling on, so I'll let you talk. What did you think of it? I know you saw a little on TV.
I'm just fascinated at the technology, how big of a role it's playing. I don't think a lot of the audience, the consumer who's there, see the technology like, what Cisco is doing, what Lenovo is doing, what T-Mobile is doing, and I think it's just so interesting how it's developed. I'm just wondering, is the technology too much for the fans to comprehend, or is the technology benefiting more the race teams, or a little of both? And so, maybe what did you think about what T-Mobile, Lenovo, and Cisco each offered from a technology perspective?
Yeah. So there are some things that I think people still see, like, you saw a ton of signage, and I kind of chose these top few to talk about because they were really very, present in, at least in the area that I was. I mean, everywhere I looked, I was in the T-Mobile zone, so it was all T-Mobile stuff. But Lenovo was everywhere, and I had, just been at the Lenovo Industry Analyst Conference a few weeks before that, so heard all about the F1 partnership with them and how they're expanding that. I think a lot of fans see signage, and I think that they're not really completely tuned in yet to how those companies might be, affecting the technologies affecting the actual race and their experience. I think there's probably some brands and also some fans. It may make more or less sense to them. I think when you see like Snapdragon, any Snapdragon enthusiast is going to know exactly what they're doing there and why. And they're a big part of the women's racing, the Formula One Academy, which that was really cool to see also. But yeah, it was. There's a combination. For at least in the T-Mobile zone, it was very focused towards consumers, even though most of what they're doing there is all around their 5G innovations. They deployed 5G powered 360-degree camera at turn 9, which is kind of where we were. And then they also had these 5G connected drones. It's amazing, really, what they can do without these cables. And we're going to talk about broadcast in a bit, but no amount of cable can get you a drone on top of the Bellagio that's going to look down the strip. I mean, so these 5G deployments really make it so that they can put cameras anywhere.
Yeah.
And also very impressive that they managed to make it through all of these weather kind of hiccups and issues. So T-Mobile also had the T-Priority, which is their network slicing. For the police department, first responders, big crowds there, lots of traffic, all of those things super needed for that. And then also they had their staff connectivity with their super mobile, which is their business phone solution. So that probably was probably the most, I would say, like combination of consumer and more race specific B2B technology, because they're doing, a very big push with their Club Magenta and their T-Life, which is their mobile app. These were like really, really nice areas of seating and hospitality and concerts and everything that were completely free to T-Mobile customers. So it really shows kind of the value add that they're trying to give. They also announced an easier way to switch carriers that through the T-Life app, not directly related to the race, but it was lots of kind of fanfare around that, and everybody's kind of leaning on these influencers and different campaigns at races like this. I'm sure you saw like the number of celebrities and things that were there. But I really look at kind of the technology backbone for the race is really kind of what makes it happen and what is so needed, I think, for so many reasons, for the safety, for the servers, the workstations, the laptops, which is Lenovo's part in this, using that to process the race data. So that's kind of how Lenovo plays in that hardware on that. Also, I think it really helps. There was a ton of signage, and although we know that sometimes people just see that as branding, I do think that their kind of smarter AI for all kind of tagging and messaging lately it helps tell that story when you consistently see a brand in an environment where is like a high stakes, like I don't know how many people are like, whoa, that must require a lot of compute power. Right. But still, everybody knows that the technology behind these cars is significant.
Well, I think shows that Cisco with how they're working with McLaren Racing, Nova's with all the data, what you were talking about. They're also I believe it's helping with the broadcasting, with all that information and giving them the tools they need. And like you said, with T-Mobile, with their 5G infrastructure, it's a different, race now than it was 10 years ago.
Mhm.
And just like one last question on this, do you think this promotes racing to a different level with the technology and brings fans closer to what's actually happening versus before?
I do, because you can see different angles and different things that you're not able to weren't able to see before, or there was a lag, and you may already know that there's somebody won or somebody had a crash or whatever. It's kind of that like instant connectivity, and this is one of the things that Cisco partnered with McLaren on, which is they're using the WebEx suite to like power the collaboration and the data sharing between the team and the operations, but they also supply the high-speed networking. So that's in combination with things like 5G and broadcasting. People are able to see in the car. You're able to see, putting cameras at like the driver's vision. Fans are able to see the telemetry from the race in ways that we never were able to see before. It was more just like a zoom by. Now you get so much data and so much information about what you're seeing. I went into one of those the simulators.
Yeah.
Oh, it was amazing. I crashed a couple times, but it really, those simulators are incredible, how you really can feel it, and you can feel how difficult it actually is, but then also seeing all the telemetry. My brain didn't process it fast enough, so I did hit the wall a couple times. But I think with practice, you get all that data, and I think it's so important for their safety, but it also just creates a more engaging experience for fans to watch that, because they get to see speed, they get to see what turns are coming up. How do you prepare for that? I mean, there's so many data points that go into it, and it was just really fun. Other than it was cold.
Oh no. Well, it kind of brings, such a singular, because it's you only get to see the one piece of action at a time, to more multi-dimensional, more dynamic. And I think it's just a great opportunity for sports to be seen in a better light with all this technology. And
Yeah.
I think something very similar to that is golf, because it's still a singular type of a sport, but you're bringing all the players around that you want to see at the same time. I guess what I'm saying is it personalizes things a little bit better with Formula One, same in golf. And so at reInvent, I was just there recently. We talked about it before today on a different podcast. AWS used the PGA Tour as one of its examples of how they're using agentic AI to move from pilots to real production. And we always talk about how the sports industry is a showcase for how other industries can utilize different technology. This is an example. And the story this year was about how, richer shot level content, automated commentary, probably similar to Formula One, gives you more of a personalized fan experience across the broadcast and also the digital platforms.
Yeah, it also gives access. I mean, if you look at both, it's very similar with Formula One, with PGA, even in tennis, where there's apps that are specifically designed for being able to follow along with all the action, and where they used to be able to just do one or two summaries of one player or one driver or one match, they now can do multiple because of Gen AI. And so you get to kind of get that glimpse into. And if you're watching on television, or if you're watching even in person, you may have the one person that you're watching, or the broadcast may just be following whoever's in the lead, but you may have somebody that you think is interesting, or maybe it's a family member, or you're a longtime fan, or whatever. So it allows more fans, I think, to be involved, because it's not just the top contenders that get the attention. It's actually all of them.
Right. And so the tours, they're using AWS to position and use different things, like Amazon just released things like Agent Core and Nova models. So the system, gives you more of that player coverage. Exactly what you just said. They're trying to make it more personalized. And, for the tour, they're able to process many more data points than before, kind of put together summaries, kind of even similar to how IBM, I would say, does it for, Wimbledon or the US Open, to give that
Yeah.
more that player background. And this is so much different than we're used to watching these types of sports. And when I met with the PGA this past week, they talked about all this technology, and I think they're saying now that the fans have so much innovation at their fingertips. Now it's about, how do you make broadcasting better? How do you make it better for the more personalized experience? Exactly what you were just saying. How do you get more than just the top players and the leaderboard? What if you want to watch your favorite players on one part of the screen and some of the other players on a different part? I think that's the direction.
Yeah. We had also at the Las Vegas Grand Prix, there were some people from the PGA Tour there as well. And as you know, I was at the PGA Championship this year, and that one of the things that is constantly being discussed is like this attention economy, and how, users are scrolling through their phone and they want to see quick hits. They want to see these things. Not everybody has 6 hours on a Sunday to watch a tournament, but they do want to see the plays. They want to see what's happening. And I think that's why that like TLG league has kind of taken off, is because it's just it's a faster play, and people want action. And there are still people who want to sit on the couch all day long and watch 6 hours of golf. Lots of people that still want to do that. But this allows people to kind of have like their quick glimpses into the players they want, maybe even the shots they want, whatever, and still be a part of the game. And so that they're able to bring in a younger audience who wants kind of a little bit quicker action, or they just want to see their one player. So I think we'll continue to see like the evolution of kind of faster play. And we're seeing that across sports. I mean, look what they did with baseball with timers. They want like that pitch clock because it moves the game. People used to say watching baseball is like watching paint dry. And to those people, I said, what's wrong with you? I love baseball. I could watch it all the time. But yeah. So yeah, I think my thing that I'm really curious about that you mentioned about AWS and what's happening, and we've covered a ton of sports technology, sports broadcast technology, and how that's adapting and changing, because I think we're kind of seeing two sides of this a little bit, and maybe this is a little bit of a debate of, I've seen it in person, like the 5G in action with T-Mobile on the course, being able to catch those shots and even do, XR layovers and everything, and do that in real time. The 5G practice zone, where they're doing the, warm-ups and everything. But I also understand that you heard from the PGA that they're not entirely ready to rely on that solely.
Yeah, they want to get there, and I think that they're trying to make it more scalable. But at the same time, they can't. They're running the cables. They feel the cables are the most reliable. Still, there's enormous weather conditions, and right now they're doing a combination of them. So they're relying on lots of technology for content from AWS, and so they're putting a lot of their innovations into that. But they're also adjusting to the infrastructure, like you just mentioned. But so the goal is to get the content, to get the broadcasting, to get the fans what they need. But at the same time, they're still not reliant on wireless.
Yeah. So we're seeing drones in the sky, no wires, but then we're still seeing 200 miles of cables being laid on a course for any given tournament. So we'll keep watching that.
Very interesting.
All right. Well, that was great. Quick little.
Let's talk about one more. So what do you think, just a quick question for you, and we'll wrap up. What do you think broadcast has changed so much in 2025? Like, what do you think some of the major changes have been? Has it been the things that you just mentioned with all the, being able to stream to the cloud? Is it the efficiencies? Is it sustainability?
Yeah.
What do you think, and we can wrap up with that?
I would say it's a few things, and it's very similar to what we talked about in Enterprise Apps Pod today, which is it's a lot of the pieces of the puzzle that are finally coming together. And we haven't necessarily seen one thing be the dominant thing, but what we're seeing is there are a lot of efficiencies when we're using network slicing, 5G, and also using broadcast or cloud broadcasting for sustainability. That's giving people, the flexibility to stand up productions wherever, whenever, however, with, maybe one or two people instead of trucks and trucks full of people. So I think it's a lot of things coming together that are finally kind of completing that puzzle. But I still don't think that we're there. I think there's a lot of things that are still happening and evolving. I mean, we saw in Berlin that AWS was able to put together an entire football game, NFL football game, in a very old stadium that does not have the infrastructure to support that. So I don't know. I think it's maybe kind of the same as like any sort of cloud or hybrid environment where you're going to have cloud, multi-cloud, hybrid. There maybe not going to be one predominant solution that's going to be the answer.
I mean, I think you said it right, and I can end on this. That it's nothing. There's been a lot of progress this year, and I think this year showed us that there's a lot more to go. And for tennis, hockey, football, basketball, baseball, to see that there's a lot of innovation out there, don't take it all. Use what's applicable to that sport. Make it better. Makes broadcasting better, more efficient, be sustainable. Give the fans what they want. And if the teams can get better, great. But I think that we've uncovered that it's there and it's real, so.
Yeah. Well said.
So, all right. Well, it's been a great year. Not sure if we're going to get another one in, but we can try.
We'll try.
And everybody have a great weekend. Take a look at us on YouTube, Twitter, X. Now, whatever we say Twitter, because people maybe not call it X, but we'll say X. And on LinkedIn, like us, make some comments. Let us know if we missed anything. We'll look forward to see you all in our next Game Time Tech. Robert Kramer, Melanie Brue. Have a great weekend and happy holidays.
Thanks.